Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
There's an old saying in finance when someone makes money on other people's money. It's called laughing all the way to the bank.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, The Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Laughter. It has been said that of all the human emotions one might exude, it is the one thing that is truly good for the soul. In fact, believe it or not, as someone who has spent the past 41 years wrangling around in the financial world, I can tell you that for me personally, this little man in the sweater vest is 100% in agreement that laughter truly is the best medicine for what ails you. Whether it's laughing at home, laughing at play, or believe it or not, laughing at work with clients. And yes, even a financial advisor who loves laughing aloud with his staff. Laughter to me is what life is all about, but only if that laughter is for the good of everyone involved, and not just for those who might be laughing all the way to the bank with your money, which of course is the topic of today's show. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement, and yes, I'm that little man in the sweater vest, the world's most fun-loving retirement planning specialist and friendliest financial fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today, before we share with you how the financial world might be laughing all the way to the bank with your life savings, let me introduce two fun-loving lads who joyfully produce this show each week. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, let's assume that you are retired or nearing retirement, and you are in search of a financial advisor to help guide you through the maze of tough financial decisions in this thing called retirement, only to discover these limited options to choose from. First, you could possibly attend a free steak dinner seminar, of course hosted by a complete stranger. Another option might be to attend a free workshop at a local library. How about this one? Attend a financial planning course offered by an advisor at a local college who, by the way, is not a college professor. And then there's D. Respond to a TV or radio show similar to the one I host each week. By what appears, listen, to be a well-spoken advisor who says all the right stuff and has all the right answers. Really, that's about it. So given these options of who to trust with your life savings, who will you choose to hand over your life savings to? And worse yet, after you do turn over your money to them, will you be like some of the frustrated folks who come to me for a second opinion, who will instead hand over their money to an advisor who ends up laughing all the way to the bank? It's a tough call. I mean, assuming you're the typical saver I meet on a regular basis, looking for someone they can trust, the chances are you have no idea how to go about the diligent task of really knowing if the advisor you're getting ready to trust will be there for the long haul, which might explain why so many savers are reluctant to employ an advisor to assist them in retirement. While they deep down know they need help in planning for Social Security, tax planning, estate planning, where to invest their money in retirement, etc., instead of making a mistake about who to trust, many of these savers simply go it alone and hope for the best, which of course is no plan at all. So how do you spot an advisor who appears to be in it for you, but in the end is laughing all the way to the bank with your money? Well, stay tuned as I uncover the best ways to keep more of your money in your pocket before ever turning over your money to a financial advisor. I'm Tony Walker. This is The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no-obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Of the many articles we researched on this topic of who to trust with your life savings, it appears that there are 8 major reasons savers distrust the financial world and the advisors who represent it. 1. Past misconduct and/or scandals. Those, of course, caught red-handed in the cookie jar. 2. Conflicts of interest. Number 3. High fees, or worse yet, not disclosing those fees. Oh, by the way, speaking of fees, we have a brand new video on our website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com called How We Get Paid. Great stuff, and proves as fiduciaries how we disclose the fees we charge our clients. Number 4, poor communication. 5, overpromising by illustrating unrealistic expectations of how much money the saver will make on the investments being pitched. The next reason savers are so skeptical of the financial world is the perception the industry only serves the wealthy. In other words, what we hear from savers coming to us for a second opinion is that at first, the advisors take a keen interest in them, but over time, they begin to feel like a number, or worse yet, get little to no attention because their accounts are too small. The next reason, complex financial products that are difficult to understand, or that's right, offer sales pitches that are too good to be true. And then finally, generational distrust from either past experiences or past economic crises. Can anyone say 2008? So let's assume back in 2005 that someone invested $300,000 in a 401k, but they're retired now. So let's say in retirement they needed $20,000 that they would take out, but because it made 4.91%, the account balance dropped to about $293,000. Not that bad, nor anything to be overly concerned about. Year 2, the $293, we took that balance, it would have earned over 15% back in 2006 in the S&P. Even if they took out the $20,000, look at this, they're up to $316,000, so things are going wonderfully. 2007, we take that $316 starting balance, it makes 5.49%. Again, that's what the S&P did then. They took out their 20, and they are still ahead by $13,000 over what they originally put in, so all is fine. But of course, look at what happened in 2008. That year, the market went down. The S&P went down 37%. But you still needed money. So even after taking out your $20,000, that original $300,000 dropped to $184,000. Now, could this happen again? Nobody knows, but the point is, sometimes what got you to the dance not always is going to keep you at the dance. How does a saver keep others in the financial world from laughing all the way to the bank with their money? Well, first of all, I would say this. Never invest in anything without first getting a second opinion from someone who you know for sure has the experience in the retirement planning field and experience in various products and strategies that have been tested over time to see if they are working in your best interest. At Tony Walker Financial, I personally see and meet with all the prospects who contact us for a second opinion. I personally lay out all the game plans, as I've done by more than 5,000 times in the past. And I will personally see to it that if I'm not available to assist you in the future, I have 3 highly trained local salaried fiduciaries who will. So if the thought of others laughing all the way to the bank with your money doesn't sound so funny, if you are retired or nearing retirement and looking for someone you can trust, let's talk. And we've made this so easy to do. In fact, we call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, where you and I, that's right, the owner of the company, will talk briefly by phone about you and your situation in retirement. If you think we can help, all you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, or to set up this free phone call, call us anytime at 877-499-9255. We'll be right back.
The individuals in this interview are uncompensated clients at the time of filming. Their opinions expressed were provided to Worry Free Productions for use as an advertisement by Tony Walker Financial. Please refer to Form CRS and Form ADV Part 2B Disclosure Brochure for information regarding the advisory services offered by Tony Walker Financial.
Our client spotlight today shines brightly on Miss Sherilyn Lawson. And Miss Lawson, thank you for being with us.
You're welcome, Tony. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You know, the theme lately has been folks that we encounter who have had, let's just say, bad experiences with financial advisors. You were just referred to us recently and shared some of those experiences with us, so I appreciate you sharing those with our audience. So set up the table here. What exactly happened years ago, and how did this transpire over the years with this particular firm?
When we first joined the firm, it was gung-ho and just everything for us and all that. As it went on and the firm got larger and larger, we became a smaller part. My husband and I actually wrote a letter at the very beginning saying how much we appreciated the help that this firm had given us. My husband passed. I went in for some advice, and I was literally told how ridiculous I was for saying the things I didn't want to be in all these different things. And it was all feeding my money, and I wasn't seeing any reward from it. And that just really upset me. Then I got shoved from advisor to advisor to advisor. If I called in with a question, and one of the times I called in and asked for so-and-so, he no longer works here. And I said, well, who is my advisor? Well, we don't know right now. We'll have to call you back. And then they never called me back. I don't have millions of money, but what I have, my husband and I worked very hard for, and I want to protect what I have, and I want to feel valued.
Yeah, you even said that. Speak to that. You even said you were expecting a phone call from an advisor at a certain time.
Right.
They didn't call, and I think when you called back, what was their reaction? Why did they not call you?
Because they were talking to a major person, and apparently I was not a major client. So
the one that had the most money kind of won that phone call.
You got that right. And things like that just have made me so leery and just so worn down. And I just knew I had to find someone that cared.
And you were referred to us. So what did the person referring you to us say about Tony Walker Financial?
So it was the best investment they ever made in their life. They are so happy. They're making great money, and there is no pressure on anything. You come, you sit down, you have the first conversation, then you meet in a few weeks. They tell you what they can do for you. If that works for you, fine. If it doesn't, it was very nice meeting with you and that. But I'm so looking forward to sitting down with you and seeing what you can do with me.
Well, thank you so much. And I as well looking forward to working with you. So thank you, Ms. Lawson.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Speaking of advisors laughing all the way to the bank, our Tony in the Trenches comes to us from Peggy in Louisville, who recently asked this, unfortunately, all too familiar question that I'm hearing more and more of. Let's take a look at this. She writes, Tony, years ago I attended a dinner seminar and decided to move my 401k to the advisor hosting it. He put my $500,000 account into a bonus annuity that paid an upfront bonus of 15%. However, after 2 years since the annuity had not grown, and after me complaining to him about how I had made no money on it, he recently moved the annuity to a brand new bonus annuity, as he put it, to make me whole. My question is, how much has he made on the sale of these annuities versus how much I've made thus far? Now, this is a great question. And again, folks, nothing necessarily on the surface wrong with bonus annuities. We do sell bonus annuities from time to time, but you have to be careful. Because of the enticement of what's called this free bonus, you're getting ready to see it's not free at all. And in fact, if you get out early or surrender these bonus annuities, the amount of money it's going to cost you can be horrific. And that means that the agent or the advisor selling it still makes a bundle of commissions from it. So let's take a look at this transaction she's talking about. First of all, we're going to imagine that Peggy rolled this over to an annuity. I'm familiar with this annuity, and put $500,000 in to get a bonus. And up front, it does pay a 15% bonus. So $75,000 was immediately added to the account. There was no out-of-pocket cost because, like most annuities, the agent that sold this annuity was paid an upfront commission by the insurance company at the time of sale. It did not actually come out of the contract up front. But now the average commission on this type of an annuity is around 7%. So that means the insurance company paid to the agent $35,000 commission, okay? Right there. They got paid $35,000. Now that means, though, the annuity is still worth $575 because remember, the commissions were not paid out of the annuity, but paid by the insurance company. Now you're going to see this commission's baked into the cake, so hang on. All right, 2 years later, according to Peggy, the annuity had not grown. In other words, it was still worth $575,000. So she complains to the agent. What does he do? Well, he surrenders the contract. Now this is what you got to be careful of. Surrender the contract. Now this particular company, they're all different, has what's called a recapture provision. Meaning if you surrender the contract within a certain number of years, again, it's different for different companies, they take back the bonus, okay? So this is when we find out it's not real money. In other words, the $75,000 was lost. They took it back. But in addition to that, there was a 10% surrender charge, which would be another $57,000, meaning Peggy's contract now is worth $442,000. This is not looking good. So apparently the agent, in their infinite wisdom, in order to make her whole, says, well, let's just move it to a brand new bonus annuity, which Peggy's like, oh, okay. So they move it over, the 442, remember that's what's left, okay, gets a new 15% bonus with a different company, which brings her up to 508, and all appears to be well in Mudville. Well, guess what? The agent got another commission of 7% on the 442, so the agent gets another roughly $31,000 paid by this new insurance company immediately to the agent. All right, let's keep going. So how much did Peggy make over this 2-year period? Now remember, this is all on paper. If she surrenders the new annuity, she's right back into this slippery slope. She's going to lose a ton of money. But she's made, okay, on paper, she's at least made whole. But how much has the agent made in these 2 years? A total of about $65,000. All right, with that said, let me share with you a few tips on just slowing down this process of your advisor possibly being like this advisor and laughing all the way to the bank with your money. Here's some pointers. Number one, if what anybody is selling you sounds too good to be true, as the old saying goes, it probably is. Number two, another red flag, if there is a bonus attached to the annuity, be sure to understand what the fees are, if any, how much they're going to charge for the bonus, are there recapture provisions if you get out early, and of course, are there additional charges if you surrender the contract prior to the end of the term? Remember, get this in writing. Number three, an advisor who is wanting to handle your 401k or other large sums of money for the future, but will not offer some sort of written game plan, for sure you're going to want to get a second opinion on that. And by the way, a retirement calculator is not a game plan. An illustration is not a game plan. Something doodled on a piece of paper by an advisor, that is not a game plan. A game plan, something you can see, visualize, and that the firm that's behind the game plan can monitor your progress and keep you on track. Okay, the next pointer, if they will not provide you a written game plan before giving your money over. In other words, here's the big deal. A lot of people say, oh yeah, you'll get your written game plan, but you've got to turn the money over to us first. But for sure, get a second opinion from someone such as Tony Walker Financial. In fact, Tony Walker Financial, we are so confident in our game plans, we do not require any fees up front to get the game plan if you qualify, and there's no obligation. So what happens is, after the second appointment, when I meet with somebody and deliver the game plan, we are encouraging them to take that game plan with them, make sure they don't have any questions, and then follow back up with us. Because folks, this is a big deal. When you get into retirement planning, we want to make sure whatever you choose to do, you understand what you're doing and you're comfortable with who you are working with. And then finally, number 5, boy, be careful of this. If anybody is touting what they say are guaranteed returns on your money of 7, 8, or even 10%, for sure, you're going to want to slow down and get a second opinion on that. Oh, speaking of laughing all the way to the bank, did you realize that in many cases, the Bible suggests that laughter is not only good for the soul, but in the instance we are about to read about, Having the wisdom of God allows Christians to laugh at the future no matter what might be in their pocketbooks. So stay tuned. This is the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back.
The individuals in this interview are uncompensated clients at the time of filming. Their opinions expressed were provided to Worry-Free Productions for use as an advertisement by Tony Walker Financial. Please refer to Form CRS and Form ADV Part 2B Disclosure Brochure for information regarding the advisory services offered by Tony Walker Financial.
Our client spotlight features today Larry and Elaine Mitchum. And Larry and Elaine, it's been so good to have you with us, and thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure always to come out and meet with you, Tony. We've enjoyed the relationship over the last several years, without a doubt.
Well, let's go back to that. So first of all, tell me what you did for a living.
I was a pesky insurance man. I was in it for about 40 years, but dealt primarily with property liability and workers' comp for public entities. And the majority of our business for me was working with boards of educations, but also city and county governments and political subdivisions, water district health departments, and traveled throughout Kentucky for about 35 years before I get to that point.
And Elaine, you did not work outside the household, correct?
Well, I worked when I was younger, but then when we met, I didn't have to work because he made all the money. So that was good, and it helps. It helped us be with the grandkids more, and do what we wanted to do at church and all those things. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, remind me, how did you find out about Tony Walker Financial?
Well, I tell you what, we didn't really have an interest, but when we got to that point where we saw the light at the end of the tunnel of getting to a point of considering retirement, first of all, it was a blessing, and boy, did those years go fast before they got there. And then it's like, okay, hey, we're really going to have to start looking at what we want to do because, like I said, we had been blessed, and I've seen a couple commercials on TV with that. And then I think we had just talked to Elaine and I, let's watch one of his episodes that he has, one of his shows. And so we did that. And then we were always touched and encouraged by your openness of expressing your faith. Because we gave our life to Jesus and God years ago. And I have always had that saying, I'm walking, living proof that the good Lord takes care of those that can't take care of themselves.
For sure.
And then he said to submit in all things. So this was one that we prayed about. And even though we had been working with somebody else and generating our retirement savings, I had just seen him show up in ways where he has tried to direct us and give us a message of maybe that. And just after watching your shows, Elaine and I talked about, let's just at least go out and listen to what he has to say. And that's when we called to schedule an appointment to come out and visit with you, just to hear, your philosophy of getting it. And I loved your ideas for live well and die broke, baby. I'm trying to follow your advice in that one right there. I promise you that.
So, Mitchum's, one of the things that's exciting, since you've retired, you're not really retiring, you've just taken on a separate vocation. Tell us a little bit about the ministry.
I took quite a few lessons in the game of life. Been clean from drugs now for about 35 years and alcohol about 15 years. And being members of Fairdale Christian Church, another guy had started to celebrate recovery. And it's just it's a substance abuse program, not just substance abuse, but dealing with hurt habits and hang-ups of individuals that are struggling with life challenges. And it's a faith-based program for recovery to deal with those so that you can face them and get on with a life and facing challenges. And as we have a saying, our plaque above our deck out there is that life's not about waiting for the storm to pass, it's learning to dance in the rain. That we've understood through his word, we're going to face trials and tribulations, but we do have a choice in how we respond to those trials.
And I got to ask you, Elaine, now that you've been a client, you and your husband, of Tony Walker Financial, how would you surmise your experience, not only just getting to meet me and getting a game plan, but working more specifically with the staff here?
I think they've been wonderful. I mean, we can call anytime, and they always get back with us right away if they can't at that time. And that's important. That's real important to us to do that, to be able to know that we can call at any time and they're right there for us. And it's been wonderful.
I think it's been beneficial for us, too, not just the professionalism, but the attitude from which they deal with. And like I said, we can feel the joy out here without a doubt.
Yeah.
We're talking about the joy that transcends all understanding. and just to partner with those, like I said, it makes it worthwhile.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment. And of course, it's joyful to work with clients like you too. So congratulations on your retirement and also your continued passion for other people. Yeah. So we appreciate your business.
We're having the time of our life.
Yeah, we are.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement with the money missionary himself, Tony Walker.
In June of 1991, after turning my life over to God and accepting by faith the finished work of Jesus Christ as my only hope to function in this world, I began to spend countless hours poring over the Bible to learn the next steps for me and how to perfect my newfound walk with the Lord. Interesting that shortly after my conversion, I stumbled across one of the most unique takes on life, business, money, and family located in the book of Proverbs, beginning in chapter 31. Some refer to this chapter as the description of the perfect woman. Oh, by the way, gentlemen, don't make the same mistake I made after reading this chapter and getting the bright idea to sit your wife down, as I did, and force-feed chapter 31 to her in hopes that she too might become the perfect woman. If you do, you may get the same reaction from your wife that I got from mine.
What did I do?
Since we are talking about laughter and hopefully how to avoid others laughing all the way to the bank with your money, I have to point out a great saying about people and laughter, and it comes to us from Brian Tracy, someone I studied under for years, who once had this wise take on laughing in the face of yourself and, of course, not taking things too seriously, where he said, "Don't take yourself so seriously because nobody else is either." So let's dive into chapter 31 and focus on these three verses, 24 through 26, where we begin in verse 24, where we are told that the perfect woman is not just a hard worker, but a skilled worker and a business person who knows how to sell what she makes. Then we come on over to verse 25. It continues to describe this woman as someone who is not only clothed in fine garments, but clothed with strength and dignity. In other words, she is comfortable in her own skin and able to laugh at the days ahead. She's not a worrier because she is not afraid of the future. And then finally, verse 26, we see that she has perfected the art of being in the world, but not being of the world. Check it out, where it says she speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction. It is on her tongue. So, Christian, you want to uncover the truth about people and whether they are truly putting your best interest ahead of their own? Listen closely to how they speak and what they speak about. Can you tell whether they are in the world or are they of the world? Well, my advice, don't be so naive about those touting their wares. For sure, like the wise young lady described in Proverbs, we are all selling something to make a living. But be sure those who are selling you something also have evidence that they are walking with the Lord and not getting ready to laugh all the way to the bank with your money. You keep that in mind and slow down on making these major decisions with your life and your money, and I assure you that you will begin to laugh more at the future. And that, my friend, is some good news you and I can take to the bank. Well, speaking of being wise with your money and your future, I've got an idea of, best of all, this idea that will cost you not a penny, and it's only going to take about 10 minutes of your time. That's right, speaking to me, Tony Walker, the owner of the company, about your retirement. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, and here's how easy it is for us to visit. Just log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that Let's Get Started to arrange that phone call. After we talk by phone, if it merits, if I think we can be of help, we're going to meet in person, no cost, no obligation, to get that free, personalized game plan that only Tony Walker Financial provides. Hey, internet not your thing? No problem. We got operators standing by 24/7. That number is 877-499-9255. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free and you make it a good one.